Hi, my name is Darren, and I love talking African affairs under my brand Veritas with Darren Bartlett. So I request that you subscribe to move with me in this journey of journalism, especially when it concerns African affairs, and I'm talking about current affairs on the continent. Now, a week ago, I was talking about the possibility of Zimbabwe scrapping the term limits, enabling Emerson Mnangagwa to stand for his third term and probably beyond for as long as he's fit. I mean, if there's no term limits, that is it. And I talked about why these term limits, if they are scrapped, they enable more dictators on the continent. Because I will go through a couple of presidents who have removed it, the term limits, and still stay. But guess what? Central African Republic seems to have joined the bandwagon of scrapping term limits and also enabling the incumbents who have been in power to stand. I'll tell you why. This is President Faustin-Archange of Central African Republic, who confirmed on Saturday that he will actually be running for his third term in office. He's 68 years of age. One might say maybe he's still young, but yeah, his party, which is known as the United Hearts Movement Party, endorsed him, and he's going to be going through. So we expect that when elections come, of which the date has not yet been put in place, but sometime in December, we shall be having an election, a presidential election for Central African Republic. And again, I keep saying that I think democracy was not an idea for Africans, and that countries that don't have democracy on the continent, especially those that we see, the Arab countries, Tunisia, Algeria, those that have an idea of we have one ruler, have managed to prosper. I know they have their own difficulties as countries, but they have managed to prosper. And I think that one of the things that hinders incumbents to be able to achieve the goals, I'm not giving excuses for them, but one of the reasons they manage or they fail to achieve the goals that they have set out in their manifestos is because, first of all, the terms are very short. It's 4 years or 5 years. And then they spend almost 2 years battling an election result. Going to court, they want to nullify an election. A few times do they succeed, because I've seen that in Kenya where a result was overturned. I don't know any other country on the continent that has overturned results. Probably I'll need to search more on that. But eventually, you realize that the president has only worked for 3 years. And yet, even the third year we are talking about, okay, the fifth year, okay, spend 2 years battling with the opposition on who won the election. And then the last year, you're trying to campaign for the next term in office. So you spend just 3 years trying to work, probably implement a strategy. And some of the things that you promised, you cannot even make them happen. So there's just too much. And that's why I think that presidents should be given a longer time in office, maybe 10 years. We vote once every 10 years, so that in 10 years, you have no excuse to give us that you did achieve A, B, C, D. That kind of democracy for me would work. But as of now, we still have a blueprint of the West, 4 years, 5 years, and so on and so forth. But here's the thing. Let me go back to the presidential term limits that have been scrapped. Every time presidential term limits have been scrapped, this is what you should put in mind, that the incumbent is going to come back and stand again. And this doesn't, I've never seen term limits being scrapped and then the president says, let me make way for another. It will be up to the other one to be able to stay longer. Now, what's happening in Central African Republic is that the term limits were removed in the constitutional amendments that happened in 2023. Yeah, there were some rebel groups activities that happened, some kind of insecurity, but that passed. And now, after removing the term limits, they even added the years of a president to be 7 years in power. So every term, a president will be there for 7 years. So if he is to rule 3, 4, 5 terms, it's going to take almost 4 decades for someone to be in power, and the only thing that can remove him is a ballot. But again, Africa is Africa. If the ballot doesn't work, you will always hear of a coup that has happened somewhere. But let me tell you, countries that have removed term limits and the presidents have stayed in power till today. Go to Congo Brazzaville. Sassou Nguesso has been there for a long time. You go to Uganda, where the president, they removed the term limits, and he's been a president since then, 2005 till today. Forgot about anything to say, or this is the limit. No, for as long as he's fit, he will stand. In fact, President Yoweri Museveni is going to stand for the 7th term come 2026, because the campaigns have actually already started. Go to okay, the Burkina Faso, those ones even removed the elections. They can move on. Go to Rwanda, where they removed term limits, extended the presidential term. Then again, it was adjusted again. So I mean, Paul Kagame is going to be here for another time. In fact, if as long as he's still alive, he may be president of Rwanda up to 2035. So every time constitutional amendments have been made and the incumbent stands, the likelihood that that person is going to be around for a very long time are high. Look at Central African Republic. I know they're having security issues, but they reached a point of enlisting foreign mercenaries, the Wagner Group and other Russian militaries and others, to come and protect the country, the president and other government infrastructures that are there. Yet the country is rich, it has minerals in there. So I don't know whether you agree with me on the issue of democracy for Africa. It just doesn't work, especially if it is short terms or the short term, whereby a president only rules for 4 years or 5 years. In the next 3 years, they're into another election, or probably the next 2 years, they're into another campaign mode. So the countries that have mastered that have actually taken on humanity. Botswana, the South Africans, the Namibians, come to Malawi, or all these other countries in the South have actually mastered better democracy practices than the Central Africa and West Africa, where presidents just don't leave power. At least they will amend the constitution, but for how long shall we be there? I don't mind the president being around for 10 years or 20 or 40 years. As long as the people are willing to support that person being in power, it is. But for today, it's news that Foster is going to stay. He's going to run for presidency. Unlikely he's going to win, because I have not seen any amendment in our constitution that has led to the failure of a sitting president. It's not there. So, Central African Republic, see you in December when you're voting for who will be your leader for the next 7 years, because that's what your constitution says. My name is Dara. Subscribe and share.